$10 million is a lot of fucking money, especially if you're a disc golfer. Let's be honest, there's nobody out there right now that is openly saying how much money that they are making on their contracts, because clearly, even before this contract, it's not even close to where it is now, especially. I'm curious as to what the next biggest contract is, and I think we all are, so let's speculate on that. For some weird reason, Paul Mcbeth is not the #1 ranked player in the world. I don't know how it happened over the last year. I mean, I don't recall Ricky doing anything profoundly great and like just totally destroying everybody, but somehow he took over his mantle and he's #1. But I think at this point, we could stop looking at ranking as far as disc golf stats go, because who cares about rankings when you're making $10 million? No one cares about what you made. No one cares what Ricky made last year, because it doesn't even compare to what Paul is making, or even what Paul made last year. So it's getting to that point or at least it seems like it could be headed to that point. I don't even know that we're getting to that point to where we can start looking at financials as a part of gauging people's talents. But I think that there are a lot of people that we could all agree with that are well underpaid and that are far better than they're being paid and should be paid way more. I think the future of disc golf is going to be kind of what it obviously is. It's going to be a financial thing, to where, you know, how much of a financial benefit are you to this company, and that's going to be what dictates whether or not you make a certain amount of money or not. You know, you can win all the tournaments you want, it doesn't make a difference. Paul won lots of tournaments and has won lots of tournaments, but he's also just been this figure of disc golf that's just catapulted people's interest. People just want to watch him. People just want to see. So people naturally will buy his disc, anything that's got his name on it and all that stuff. That's what you need to gear towards. So it's not winning, doesn't matter. I mean, Sam Lazat is the best at this, in my opinion, because he's never really cared about winning, and he is one of the most favorite disc golfers in the world. Proof that you don't need to win to be successful at being a professional. You don't have to be winning every tournament. Even though Paul Mcbeth has done that, that's what's made him so great, is that he's won so many tournaments and he's done so much for the sport, and just putting it out there and just people just being like enamored with him because he's just like dominating everybody, and that's just what it's gotten to now. So it's heading in that direction to where winning tournaments isn't going to be what makes you the most valuable player, because if that were the case, there would be plenty of other $1 million contracts, because Chris Dickerson should have $1 million contract right now. James Conrad should have $1 million contract, because these guys are like just the most famous and most well-respected, and people love watching them. Why did Innova not step up and make a big contract for James Conrad, or try to get Chris Dickerson? I mean, come on. Who doesn't want these guys on their team? Jesus. So it seems to me that over the next, I say 5 years, these companies are going to have to step up and start doing what Discraft is doing. There's just no way around it. They have to. I mean, as disc golf grows, they're going to have to step up and do it. I mean, Discraft has laid down the gauntlet twice now, showing that like this person is worth it, and these other guys have people that I think are worth it as well, that are selling discs. I mean, we don't know what they're making, but honestly, if they were making anywhere close to this, if they had $1 million contract, I think they would say that they would. But they're also legally binded not to, so maybe that's what's holding people up from saying it, is that their Discraft and Paul are like they just want to see what is going on, like kind of like test the waters to see what other people are doing for all these players. And I think a lot of companies are afraid to admit that they can't afford that, and they're not willing to. And I think it's sad, because the players are what make the game, not the discs. We all know that the discs are great, but that is not what makes the game. The players make the game. Players deserve the money. That's why I'm glad to see all these purses and these prizes increased, especially in the women's and the men's, and where they're making the same amount. That's awesome. We need more of that, and we need it to stay that way at these big tournaments. Have equality there. And these contracts need to happen with women too. Paige Pierce deserves, I hope that she gets a big multi-million-dollar contract as well. I mean, why would you not? Why would you have, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, because if you don't now, Discraft, think down the road, if Innova offers her some multi-million-dollar contract, they're going to jump on that opportunity to be able to get her on their side to prove that also they can do the same thing you can do. They can keep up with you. They can afford this too. I mean, they're just as good. So it just seems like there's a lot of changes going on, and this contract is like going to shake things up a lot. The last one we thought did, but it wasn't. It was just kind of like they were the only one that did it, and nobody else was willing to admit anything at all that they were doing, because everybody's curious as to what these guys are making. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are making enough to survive and have comfortable lives and all that, but millions of dollars survival, I don't know that there are. I really don't know that they are. It's some of them probably deserve it, but yeah, I mean, as far as, I mean, Mcbeth is the obvious person to bet on if you're going to bet on anybody. He's got all the accolades that there are. People respect him. People love watching him play. I mean, he's the safest bet that there is without losing money. I mean, if you put his name on a disc, even if he retired now, people would still want to purchase disc with his name on it. I mean, he's just a valuable asset to disc golf, and I think 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, he's going to be making his own disc. He's going to be buying his own machines, and he's going to be making his own disc and stuff like that. So he's only going to become more valuable in the future if he continues on what he's doing and being successful and being dominant in the sport. If we think about companies that are capable of this kind of contract, I mean, obviously we think of Innova. And I don't think that I mean, the fact that they couldn't keep James Conrad, like, it seems like every other company is gearing towards making discs for, you know, they're like elite players, like letting them brand a disc and make an actual disc. I don't know when Innova or if Innova is going to do that, but I would love to see them do that. They've had, like, you know, I guess the Fireflies, kind of Nate Sexton's kind of disc, so that's kind of like a step in that direction, but that's the only step that I've seen so far, so hopefully there will be more steps of that, because I think Innova is huge and they can do so much more than they're doing. I think they have they sponsor too many people, and they need to scale that down. This needs to be a professional sport, not to where you're sponsoring just people just that are running tournaments and stuff. No offense to those people. I just think that, like, that money should go to, I understand that it's to grow the sport, and that's what the goal is, and every manufacturer does that with their players, has ambassadorships and all that stuff, but maybe scale it back a little bit, and maybe then they can afford to do this stuff, because players make the game. Tournament directors, I understand that. I know you're going to rip me a new one on that, but you know what I'm saying is, it's just that, like, that players are what drive the sport. You can hold a tournament, anybody can hold a tournament, but if you don't have the players showing up to it, and these players aren't respected and have this good track record or whatever, like, you're not gonna have as much success. I think you just need more than just to run an event. Not just those. I think the ambassadorship is great. They need to keep that by far, but, like, as far as some of these smaller tiers of, like, underground sponsorships, that's, you know, Innova and Discraft, they're not hurting on people knowing who they are. They don't need the advertisement that much. So I think those companies are going to eventually get to a point where they have to, like, kind of scale down these less elite players as far as sponsorships go, in order to be able to afford this down the road, unless they can increase their sales in some way. But, you know, but that's just my, you know, you can be offended by that if you want. I'm sure some of you will, but that's whatever. I mean, I'm just saying. The money needs to go to the top pros in order to grow the sport, in my opinion. But also, this crossed my mind. How long before we have a disc golf players union? How long before they all stand up and say, like, hey, we deserve this, we deserve that, and, like, create some sort of boundary for what they get and what they don't get, and, you know, hold the manufacturers accountable and stuff like that. Like, you know, you've seen it happen throughout history and all these other businesses and companies and stuff. So I'm curious as to whether that'll actually ever happen. Will there ever be like a union? Is there a union? I don't know. Seems like something Dave Philbert would be like a big part of, to like secure the legacy of like all these disc golfers and to make sure that they're taken care of. And so I don't know. This all just flooded. I literally just saw this not long ago, and it's like, it's crazy. $10 million. That is ridiculous. That is a lot of money for a disc golfer. That's a lot of coin. It's a lot of McLarens Mcbeth can buy. It's a lot of land he can buy. It's a lot of warehouses he can buy and make his own disc. So that's his future, I think. So anyway, that's all I got. I just wanted to say all these things and get them off my chest. So hit the like button, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Peace.